Welcome to Golden Reflections, the podcast delving into the captivating 50-year journey of Northeast Ohio Medical University. I'm your host, Lindsay Loftus, and I'm excited to lead you through a series of heartfelt and nostalgic conversations with pivotal figures in NEOMED's history. In this episode, we're joined by alumni from the 1980s through the 2000s.
Hello, I'm Andrea Igel Redding. I'm class of 1987, and I went to Youngstown State University for my undergrad of the 6-year program. I currently live in Charlotte. I trained in pediatric emergency medicine. I am on a prolonged 10-plus year hiatus from medicine while I tended to my children's extracurricular activities.
Hello, my name is Jim Kravec. I'm NEOMED class of 2002. I was in the 7-year program through Youngstown State University in the BSMD program, and I currently serve as the Chief Clinical Officer for Mercy Health in Youngstown and Lorain, Ohio. I'm internal medicine physician by background. I did residency at Summa Health in Akron, and I've practiced in Youngstown with Mercy Health for 17 years. I've worked in graduate medical education as a program director, as a clerkship director, and academic faculty for my career, and been in administration for the last 10 years while still doing a little bit of clinical care.
Yeah, Rajiv, Lapasia. I graduated from NEOMED, NEOUCOM in 2000 from the School of Medicine. I was part of the BSMD program. I'm a native of Northeast Ohio, born and raised in the Copley-Fairlawn area. After graduating in 2000, I actually started a neurosurgery residency in Philadelphia at Temple Hospital. And then over a period of a couple of years, decided to make a pretty dramatic career change into business and transition to the investment world in 2002. So a couple of years after I graduated, and have spent the last 20-plus years investing in healthcare, amongst other areas. The last 6 years, I've been running my own investment partnership or hedge fund in Princeton, New Jersey, which is where I'm based out of.
Thank you. Dr. Alfonso?
Yeah, thank you. Went into the 6-year BSMD program at Kent State in 1983, graduated in 1990 from NEOMED, did a residency in radiology, and after my fellowship in 1995, I moved up from the University of Louisville to Columbus, Ohio, and joined a private practice based out of Riverside Methodist Hospital, which is part of Ohio Health. So, long story short, I've been in this practice my entire career. I was a practice president for 13 years, and really, with the help of like-minded younger physicians that joined, we created one of the largest radiology practices in the country. We are subsequently evolved into a private equity-backed platform called Lucid Health, which has over 300 radiologists, and we're over like 8 states. So we are a national-based company. I am still a practicing radiologist, but 40% of my time is administrative as the Chief Medical Officer for Lucid Health.
It goes without saying, thank you for your time. These have been a lot of fun, and they're important to do. Discuss the significance of revisiting our story 5 decades later. What does NEOMED mean to you?
You know, I think as I think through the history of NEOMED, I have about 25 years of history as an undergrad student, as a medical student, alumni president for about a decade, and then as faculty member now for about 20 years. And NEOMED's had many different meanings for me. It was about anticipation when I was in college, and looking forward to things. When I was there, it was the grind and the grit of what medical school is and was, and that was just something I would do again in a heartbeat, as crazy as that sounds. And then since then, it's been just an evolution of growth for me as a physician and as a leader, but also growth for the medical school. So that's what I see. To me, it's in 3 different buckets as I think back at NEOMED, and what I see today in 2024 is just completely different than what it was when I graduated not that long ago in 2002.
I think for me, probably more than anything, I'm just grateful because that was when it was just a solid 6-year program. I was focused. I enjoyed my undergraduate time. I liked it being condensed. I always did. I went to summer school anyway. And I think to dive in and continue with the majority of my classmates all the way through who didn't take gap years or extra years. I really appreciated just being focused and getting started on my career. I was very excited and driven. It was fabulous, and I would do it again in a heartbeat as well.
30 years ago, I came there with my dad. I think we probably visited the admissions office and perhaps met. I think I remember meeting with Anita Picorni. And right from the beginning, I was just so excited about this BSMD program, which was essentially in my own backyard. I mean, I was excited to apply and hopefully get in. I still remember, running out to my mailbox. I remember getting that letter, and I was so happy.
If you take a minute and reflect on the university's shining moments, and maybe in a way that you think it's had an impact on health professions education, how would you respond to that?
The vision that they had back in the day, and I know initially it was more towards primary care because of the need. And while a significant portion of the graduates still go into primary care, we have a significant amount that go into some very reputable subspecialty programs, and many of them come back and work in the surrounding communities. And so I think the concept of the community med school, working for the community and giving back by physicians getting out and working for the community, has really been what I've been very proud of, and I think it's been a major achievement for NEOMED.
I think from my seat, I've lived through the generational changes of NEOMED. It started out truly as a college of medicine. That was it, with a few scattering of graduate students. So that's what I was used to when I first entered NEOUCOM. As I graduated, I did a lot of work on the Alumni Association, and I remember the conversation of changing our name. We can talk about that more later, but I remember that. And the reason was, we're not just a college of medicine, we're truly a medical university. And starting the pharmacy program and starting more graduate studies, and what else do we add even now? That's what's changed. And I remember a meeting that I was at with Dr. Nora, where she talked about it will not be sustainable to have NEOUCOM as we know it with a college of medicine. That was the one pivotal moment I remember, maybe back in 2007 or so. I could be wrong, but she came to Youngstown to meet with the physicians and said, it will not survive as an independent college. We must be a health professions university. And that, I think, was probably the pivotal change, because I'm not sure it would still be here, to be honest, if it was just a college of medicine. So now you look at it, 17 years later, 20 years later from when she had that conversation, and we have multiple colleges. The campus has, I'm making this up, tripled in size, maybe, right, in square footage. I don't recognize it when I go, and that's a positive. And so I think that's probably the pivotal moment in the past, and the pivotal moment to succeed in the future moving forward for NEOMED.
Yeah, and Andrea, your perspective would be a little different from as graduating in '87. Maybe talk about shining moments at that point in time, because it was the College of Medicine. It was the College of Medicine for 3 state universities, and your class size was markedly smaller than they are now.
Yeah, so there were about 30 from each of the 3 campuses, and then a couple of others that came in, so about 100. But I think that what I was impressed with, even though we were so small, is we turned out strong physicians. It wasn't like, we could compete with people who went to Hopkins or any university. It didn't matter. And we may have been a small university at that time, but I think it was pretty well respected with the quality of candidates that we turned out, and how we all did very well in our respective medical fields.
Can you tell me, why do you think that is? Because we hear that time and time again about, even, to this day, NEOMED, NEOUCOM is putting out exceptional physicians and healthcare professionals. From your chair, why do you think that was the case when you were a student working towards graduation?
Yeah, medicine is very different now, applying and getting in. And back then, I think you got the cream of the crop because we were so focused. A lot of people go to college and they don't know what they want to do. We all were 17 or 18 years old, and we were going to med school in 2 years, and that was it. We were determined and strong-willed.
Yeah, I would say, Lindsay, I would take a little twist on that too with Andrea's comments. I do think the 6 or 7 year program was the cream of the crop. Okay. But I also think, and knowing the curriculum that we had, there was a large focus on behavioral medicine and interviewing patients. And, my friends at the time who were at other medical schools, more of the traditional medical schools that were the 4+4 at the time, it wasn't as, we would joke it was the touchy-feely classes. We would the you feel because, where you learn to interview. We had a lot of that. We had a lot of physical exam skills that some of the other schools didn't have. And I think that did create different leaders. There are a lot of NEOMED leaders out there. And I do think it was a combination of both and. Yes, we had the education, the drive when you were 17 or 18 and you knew you were going to be a doctor by 24. We had that. But we also had the training of the compassion and the empathy, which I don't know that every school had that, right? I mean, we were one of the first schools that taught palliative medicine, right, when I was just getting out, and that made us different. And as we go into medicine, it's not just about education and scores and all that. It's about that plus taking care of the people. And I think we did a good job with that over the years. We still, I teach the students still. We do a good job with that.
I wonder if my video of interviewing is still in the library somewhere, because I do remember getting chosen to be interviewed. And you're exactly right. How do the open-ended questions, and I may still be there in the library.
You might be. We'll have to go look.
I enjoy networking a tremendous amount, and with 5,000 alumni, I think I've probably networked with more on LinkedIn than probably anyone. I mean, I'm constantly just, connecting with alum, occasionally having follow-up phone conversations and just hearing about what they've done in their careers, about their time at the medical school. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, it's not a small community anymore. It's this big, diverse community across colleges, across ages, across geographies. The talent we've attracted from a leadership perspective, I even think about the alumni administrative staff that we have. It's just a very positive thing that we didn't have even 10 years ago. So yeah, it's a really unique place, amazing place, love the people.
Can you share some cherished memories during your time at the university, and what notable moments or milestones might stand out for you?
For me, well, graduation. Probably small. Not that I was worried about it, but that's always a monumental event. There's really wasn't any one specific thing. I think the experience itself, in the friendships and the relationships that developed over the course of not just 4 years, but 6 or 7 years, was really pretty unique. And to this day, I still have very good friends, and that I keep in contact with, not as frequently, but still shared a lot of experiences and memories as we went through this process. The school always was unique in having events that allowed us to get to know each other better. It was a smaller school, so it was much easier to really know everybody in class, unlike some of the larger institutions. And so, to me, again, it goes back to really just its size and location and the makeup of it. It was the friendships and the relationships that we developed throughout the years, and just the way I think the school is really conscientious on making sure that every student gets the support that they need. So not really a single monumental moment, but really a collective moments of just overall support, which I think they did an excellent job with.
Rajiv?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, graduation's right at the top of the list, obviously, but it's just it's funny how you just remember certain things. I remember, the study carrels and getting to know classmates that weren't from the University of Akron, which is where I was from. I remember those M2 classes, Friday afternoons or whatever, where, most of the people had filtered out, and I'd always be one of the few people, still in class. I loved that classroom instruction. You really got to know some of the instructors that really inspired you. I remember Joe Bernard and Dr. Ward in anatomy, Dr. Benaida was hugely inspirational for me personally in neurobiology. I mean, it was a subject I knew nothing about till I took his class, and ended up being, at least for a while, the career that I chose.
Can I ask, for the purpose of younger alumni and current students and maybe our new faculty or new staff, what's a carrel?
Oh, so you had they don't exist anymore? Okay. So I have no, I don't, 2 floors, I guess, was the building at the time. So on the second floor, there were 2 hallways, and there was a door that opened up, and there were 4 sort of desks. So 2 desks faced the window, and then behind them a little bit were 2 more desks that faced the wall, and it was assigned to you. So you had your people that you came with from whatever campus, and then you were thrown in with 4 random people. So I was with people that I did not know before this. This is your first introduction. Your name's on the wall, and I think whoever was there first got to pick whichever desk they wanted. So I chose one with the window, which was nice. And that's how you got your group of friends that you started with. 2 of my 4 people I didn't know very well because they never stayed there. I mean, I was always there. So I had one of those in the olden days. I mean, it's like a sleeping bag, but it wasn't really, because, things have advanced so much. But I would put that to keep myself warm because it wasn't very hot. And we had a little hot plate to, heat your coffee or your tea or whatever for caffeine to keep you going. And I lived there for the first year, till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, either, because that's where I studied. I didn't go to my apartment at Kent, and I was trying to actually remember that. And I have no recollection of where it is or if I roomed with anyone, because there were so few places to live close by back at that time. So I lived at the university. I lived right there on campus, basically.
I remember the same thing. I remember this. I had the window, the right window, and you became close with us. I one didn't go. The other 2 became close friends because it was forced family fun, right? You were in that room, and it had a little fridge under there if you want. Smuggled the fridge in, and you lived there. You went home at 11 o'clock at night. You went home and slept, and you got up and did the same thing again. It was just different, So I would be remiss but to say this. My and Lindsay knows where I'm going with this, but I was a first year medical student at NEOMED, and my best friend at the time and now is Dr. Tom McAbobby. We went to school together. He's our new chair of family medicine at NEOMED. I'm not sure if you knew that, Lindsay. He's going to be taking over that role on an interim basis, which is great news. And Tom and I worked with a priest to start the local Catholic Medical Association, the Association of Catholic Medical Students. We met a couple times at the Kent State Newman Center. His name was Father Jarek. He happens to be my pastor now in Youngstown, which is 24 years later. It's really weird and cool. And we had a mass on campus. It was a Sunday night in September. We went over his rectory, and we literally built an altar for our mass. We brought it, and we had mass on campus. And there were 3 men in the room, Tom, myself, and priest, and there were 18 women in the room. And Father Jarek, who was young in his career at the time, said, "Guys, whatever you did, this was great odds for you." And so this was in November or September, I guess, of 1998. And Tom and I each married one of those women in the room. So that's where I met my wife, was through that. I was an M1, she was an M2, and Tom's wife Danielle was an M1 with us. So I met my wife at NEOMED. Thank you for the NEOWED card as from the Alumni Association. That was wonderful. And so that was probably the most important moment of my medical school career. And what I remember though was, we had a really nerdy time dating, because she was probably more nerdy than I was. And I'll say that because she's home but not listening. And we would study every Friday night. We would study Saturday morning for like 12 hours all day, go to dinner, and then study some more. And we do the same thing on Sunday. So that's, we pushed each other. We went on a few dates here and there on the evenings, but that's probably my most memorable moment. But what it did was it obviously changed my life forever, but it really, you know, she pushes me to be a better physician, a better person. And I learned because of my wife, who was a year ahead of me, which she always jokes, I rode her coattails. Absolutely true.
Well, I have my other relationship. I did not meet my husband there, but my father taught there and started pathology there. So that was just interesting. He's, you know, the brightest man that I knew. And it was hard studying for pathology. And obviously we stayed at school all the time studying, you know, your first year there. So it wasn't like I was home a lot, but if I came home, he would say, do you want me to quiz you? And I was like, absolutely not. I mean, it wasn't like he was going to give me the questions, but I just didn't want him to know that his daughter was not up on her pathology. So I remember that he would give a practical with some slides, and I studied those hard. I'm very good at that sort of thing. And he would give these really, he had a great dry sense of humor. And he would give like hints to people. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I know the answer to that. Stop helping my classmates. And I did not get honors in the pathology my entire time there, but my father was able to hood me at my graduation, which was very special. So I don't know that many people have that happen to them in other, you know, lines of work, but I know part of it was you voted who got to hood you. And I mean, I think he was a pretty exceptional teacher, and I think that that's why he was chosen. I may have lobbied with my classmates to have that happen. I don't know, but you know, it was a pretty iconic moment for me.
And I would say, Lindsay, you know, the other cherished moment I have is I think back of people, right? I remember Joe Bernard, who was our anatomy instructor. And I live in Canfield, Ohio, in the Mahoning County area, and Joe does as well. So Joe's been a friend since first year of med school. And you know, I wasn't the anatomy instructor, but I was someone that I got to know very well. I didn't like anatomy at all. In fact, I really despised it. I hated the cutting, and I hated the smells, and I was terrible at it. But Joe was just so kind, and we became personal friends. And even now, you know, 25 years later, I see Joe not infrequently in the community, and Joe's retired now with his wife Carol, and they're such good friends. We don't get together like we used to, but that memory of Joe and how he taught me and how he cared, that was special.
In the spirit of maybe following up on that question, are there any distinctive traditions or events or experiences that you remember fondly, or may you know, help define or explain your connection to NEOUCOM, now NEOMED?
Flag football tournament.
Tell me more.
Well, I remember that was like an annual tradition. I don't know if it still exists. I mean, we'd have I think on campus every year. I forget when it was, and it was like a big deal, you know, to participate in that flag football game. I think I forget how it was structured, upperclassmen versus, you know, lowerclassmen, or whatever the case may be.
It was the Robert Blanche flag football tournament. He was a member of a class ahead of me who passed away in a car wreck. I don't know the details, but I mean, I remember very well. We would do on the front lawn, right where the parking lots are now. We'd have, but it was all grass. All the parking lots are grass, and we would do flag football. And one year someone broke a leg and an arm, and the next year someone had a minor brain trauma, so they stopped that. So yeah. It was fun. It was fun, but it got a little out of hand because people were very aggressive, and you used to winning in a lot of things, and it didn't go well. So
There was that talent show, which I was never part of because I didn't have any talents outside of studying. But you know, you don't really. I mean, you remember the academic side of things, but it was really kind of those social events or sporting events that kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think the talent show was unique, and it was the first year. It was a good way to break the ice. The Halloween parties were always kind of a favorite of mine. It's when the staff would also show up and mingle with the students. And then and just the overall camaraderie, especially the last 2 years after clinical rotations, just getting together on the weekends, going out to, in my case, it was either downtown Akron area or sometimes near in Kent, where I lived actually, and some of the facilities that were just sort of a staple for us as friends, getting out and blowing some steam off after working. So really more of the social scene. And then the senior year, the festivities the last month, I thought were really unique with some of the activities. I mean, we had like some kind of a treasure hunt, or we had some other activities where it really just kind of boiled down to a lot of just really fun events, and completely just took you away from the moment that you were graduating from med school.
So our first year there, in the spring, we had a car scavenger hunt. Was just a fun thing where someone, made up all these directions and you had to complete the tasks with a partner. It was driving, it'd be like turn right at the third, maybe stop, and how many miles, or just some bizarre stuff. And it was super fun for a couple reasons. One, because I won with my roommate, Susan Myers. One of the things we had to get was a live chicken. So you passed farms, because again, back in the day, it was all farm country and you just went for miles. I mean, I think this took like 4 hours. So you had to go stop and ask someone if you could borrow their chicken and bring it back. And it was timed to, get your tasks done.
I was selected as the Grand Marshal of commencement back in, I think 12 or 13, which was probably the ultimate success of my career that I totally didn't deserve. The students selected that, and that was one of the coolest experiences. And I always remember being a part of that graduation for those students, because I got to call the procession to order, or call the ceremony to order. And I think, thinking back, and then all I can think of in that year was my own graduation, 10, 12 years earlier. And as we think about the car scavenger hunt, thinking about the flag football tournament, or the carrels, or the 100 hours a week of studying, it all ended on that day. It all culminated on that day, I should say, of that coolest moment. I was the first doctor in my family, and to have family there, and my mom and dad, and my girlfriend, who now my wife, and her family was there, and that was just the coolest experience.
This has been great. As we wrap up and close this conversation, I want to give each of you an opportunity to kind of share one final thought for our audience. Dr. Alfonso?
Looking at the evolution of the school from the BSMD to evolving into still allowing students out of high school, but not necessarily in 2 years, just a more conventional, traditional route of 4 years, which I actually think is not a bad thing for students from a maturity level, but also to have the security of being able to, get into medical school early on, and the evolution of the school from being a consortium into its own charter, and the expansion of the different colleges also was in different regions and continues to expand around the state. Has really been an amazing, progress for the university. And I admittedly have not been back for probably close to 20 years on site. I'm embarrassed to say, but I do plan on coming this fall or summer and seeing the facilities, because I'm sure I'll be amazed at how much it's changed over the last couple of decades. And so just overall, just couldn't be more supportive and proud of NEOMED and the experience that I had, and the support the school has shown to me. And I'm a big believer, and I encourage so many of the young adults that are applying to medical school to consider NEOMED. And many of them may not be as aware, but I give them my story and tell them about a lot of my colleagues' stories, and about how it is a unique experience, and really is one that they should consider if they want to be really well trained and feel like they have every opportunity available to them as they pursue a career in medicine.
Dr. Kravec?
I've had several phases of my career. I hope I have several more phases, but as I think through my career so far, when I was a medical student, I learned from the best faculty. I can go on and on about, with Dr. Ron Mikulich, who passed away a couple of years ago, Dr. Joe Zarconi, others I mentioned with Lisa Young and Joe Bernard. There's so many more that I can think of. I'll offend people by not thinking of all of them. But I was at that phase. Then I was a resident and a young faculty member, and I worked with NEOMED students. And this was in Akron at SUMA. This was at St. Elizabeth in Youngstown. I had students from NEOMED and three other medical schools I was on faculty for. I won't say their names, but I had students from 4 medical schools. And without a doubt, the NEOMED students were and are superior academically, socially, and compassionately. I can say that before and now, without a doubt. And now I'm at an administrative point of my career. Mercy Youngstown and Mercy Lorraine last year hired 100 new physicians to work for us. Many of them are NEOMED grads. I did an analysis of our medical staff in the Youngstown area, Mahoning, Trumbull, Columbiana counties, and about 1/3 to 40% of our medical staff are NEOMED grads. And it's obvious who they are when I see that. Our NEOMED graduates are very community focused, but also academically focused and professionally focused. And without this medical school that was founded in 50 years ago, we wouldn't have those doctors in our community. I can say that for certain. So as I have the problem of, we need more primary care, I need more neurologists or more emergency doctors in our community. NEOMED has flooded the market with these doctors that if this school wasn't there would be a doctor shortage in my community, and I know there would be. So as I think forward to the future, I'm excited to see what the next phase will hold for my relationship with NEOMED and NEOMED's relationship with the community.
Again, to me, it's just amazing that now we have over 5,000 graduates and growing. Of course, then we have the School of Pharmacy, and then I think in the fall of 2025, we'll have our first class start the School of Dentistry, and then College of Graduate Studies is growing. So, it's just amazing, the exponential impact that the university is having, not just in Northeast Ohio or Ohio, which it clearly is and will continue to have, but now we have, I think, 6,000 applicants nationwide for 200 or less than 200 spots today for medical school. I mean, when I visited I think it was 11 years ago, I think it was 2013. It was the first time I had been on campus in 12 or 13 years, I guess, at that point, since graduating. And I didn't recognize the place. And that progress has only continued. And I just wanted to be part of that. So for me, the natural place to reintegrate myself into the NEOMED community was through being on the alumni board. And then that kind of evolved into becoming treasurer and now president of the alumni board. And now I get to kind of sit in on foundation meetings. I get to interact with all you guys, hear about what's going on. I come back there and sometimes talk to students. I want to do more of everything. I just want to be part of, this amazing university that I've been part of since I was a teenager.
I'm just proud to be from there. I mean, I'm not in the area, but when I did my residency in Columbus, I was excited to get people who were accepted into the program from NEOUCOM, NEOMED, because I knew what the quality of their education was. And then I lost touch, but moved down to Charlotte, and it was sort of the same thing to see people branch out and see the graduates come to other places in other cities, not necessarily staying in Ohio. And I was proud that they were, part of what I was, and I could see the education and see their commitment and drive and everything that was instilled in me. I still see that in the doctors that come from there. I'm sorry I hadn't been more in touch in that location, but it's gotten very far reaching, and I really enjoy watching the news to see where they match and how strong the education still is there. But yeah, I am proud and grateful to come from there.
Wonderful. Listen, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
All right.
Take care. Thank you.
All right,
You guys
Mark.
have a good day.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Lindsay, for asking me to do this. It was fun.
Golden Reflections is hosted by Lindsay Loftus and produced by Dave Vidito. Thank you for listening.
Hey, can I add one more piece I just thought of? I think it was kind of a fun story.
Yeah, we're still recording. Go.
Yeah. So I just wanted to tell my recollection of the name change from my seat. So at the time, I forget the exact year, but I served as president of the Alumni Association, and that was a guttural response alumni had about changing the name. It was not a positive feeling for many alumni at the time. I think after 15 years now, I think most people are rarely it's called NEOUCOM. Now it's almost always NEOMED, even for the stragglers that didn't embrace it. But I remember we took an alumni took a survey, and this was one of the funny comments was we were given it almost felt like it was predetermined, the name Northeast Ohio Medical University, because there was, I forget the other ones, but one of them was Portage State University. That was one of the key alternatives. So I think we all had to vote between NEOMED and Portage State University. So I think it was almost unanimous. And then when we finished, everyone's like, hey, you all picked NEOMED. So but given the negativity, and it was, I mean, just we're trying to capture the history. That was not a popular decision with alumni, okay, at the time. But I truly feel like, 15 years later, I think everyone saw that, not everyone, that's too general. I see the vision, I embrace it, because we're not a medical college. It wouldn't be around at all. We're a medical university that does so many disciplines, and that's what's been successful. I still have my NEOMED diploma right behind my, or NEOUCOM diploma behind my NEOMED diploma. I didn't get rid of it. So
I still have NEOUCOM sweatpants that I do yard work in.